Hello and welcome to the first superhero show of 2015. I'm Daniel, you're Chris, and this week we're not going to talk about Ant-Man. The trailer came and went, and we've got plenty of Ant-Man stuff up on site, so go check it out. But we're going to tackle the other major piece of Marvel news this week, which is Daredevil.
Yeah, the Daredevil series that Marvel's produced is hitting Netflix on April the 10th, we found out.
Yeah.
All 13 episodes dropping at the same time.
Yeah, and they announced this with a very cool motion poster, which I quite like the look and feel of. But we're just going to talk about why we're really excited for Daredevil. And we've got really high hopes for it as a series. I think they're saying all the right stuff about the project. And first off is just Daredevil's a really cool character in the Marvel universe. I don't think he's the most famous, but I think to comic book fans, there's a very credible case to be made that Daredevil has some of the best stories of any of Marvel's comic book characters. So many cool creative forces have worked with the character over the years. Obviously created by Stan Lee back in the day, but Frank Miller did a seminal run on the character. It is sometimes highlighted as the character in the book that saved Marvel Comics in the 90s, in 98, 99. Kevin Smith did a run on it with Joe Quesada, which really kind of got Marvel back to its roots of strong storytelling. And then in the last kind of 10 years, you've got Bendis's run, and currently Wade's run is always ranking in the top 100 comics of the year every single year. So this is a cool character, and obviously writers keep getting drawn to him to find interesting stories to tell. Yeah,
he's one of your favourite characters, more so than mine actually. So why do you love Daredevil?
Because I think we'll get onto this in a minute. He isn't one of the most spectacularly powered heroes. He's more of a tortured hero, and his remit is more focused. And I find he's more identifiable because he isn't capable of saving the universe. He has a very different purpose within the universe, and there's lots of. I think it's mainly because there's been lots of really great stories. So hopefully there's something inherent in the character that allows those stories to be told.
Now next up we were going to talk about the cast and why we like the cast. Although I'm not as keen on Charlie Cox as maybe other people are. I mean, I thought he was okay in Stardust. I liked him in Boardwalk Empire.
I think in Boardwalk Empire is, we see why he's a good choice.
So do you think he'll make a good Daredevil, a good Matt Murdock?
Yeah, I don't know a lot of his work, again, just those two things really. And I think in Boardwalk Empire, you can tell there's a quietness about him, but you can sense there's strength inside of him, and there's a sort of danger to him. So I think that's maybe why he's good casting for the role.
He's definitely likeable, and it's another Brit playing an American superhero. What's that all about? But I think what we're most excited about is Vincent D'Onofrio playing Kingpin, because that man has some presence. He's a tough guy. The actor's actually from Brooklyn in the first place.
Authentic.
He burst on the film scene playing Private Pile in Full Metal Jacket, but since then he's played kind of a series of tough guys and mobsters and tough policemen, and he's just, I don't know, there's something about him that I've met the guy, I've interviewed him, you wouldn't mess with him.
And they said that the series is going to be very much the first series. It's the rise of Matt Murdock as Daredevil, but also the rise of the Kingpin. So these two stories in unison, but kind of weaving in and out of each other.
And they've also said that he's going to have a love story that's going to run throughout the series. So that's something you don't often see in a villain in one of these pieces, is kind of something more sympathetic or
humanising,
something you can empathise with. I mean, D'Onofrio said he's going to be kind of part way between a monster and a child, which sounds frightening in itself.
Dangerous, unpredictable.
But we're going to get a love story as well. So that's the thing I'm probably most excited about on the cast side of things.
Yeah, and I also think another reason, it's really smart how they're approaching these Netflix series and seeing them in a slightly different way to maybe S.H.I.E.L.D. as well, but also definitely different to what they're doing on the big screen. Jeff Loeb, who's heading up Marvel's television unit, has a long history writing comics, written for DC and Marvel, worked on Smallville back in the day. He also wrote Teen Wolf. Side note, but he speaks very well about what the purpose of Daredevil is in the Netflix shows within the wider Marvel universe, and it's to tell the stories of the street level heroes. So while it exists in the same world as the Avengers and Captain America, it's telling the stories about the heroes that will save your neighborhood. They're not going to save the universe, they're not going to go into space, but if there's a problem that's local and it's affecting one particular part of Manhattan, it'll be Daredevil tackling it, because Iron Man's busy with bigger things. And I think that's really smart, that it's just kind of, like Peggy Carter is, Peggy Carter is adding kind of a history to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is just like, again, just expanding the horizons of it.
And that might be a good thing, because sometimes I think Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is kind of caught between these two different worlds, where it's not quite big enough to be Avengers on that level, but it's dealing with similar issues, at the same time doing like a cheapo Monster of the Week sometimes.
Yeah.
And when you're caught between those two stools, I don't know, maybe that's why that show hasn't, you know, properly hit home for me. Whereas this, where it's concentrating on something that's believable and kind of real world, I think I'll be able to appreciate that a little bit more, maybe.
And you think that's more achievable? You've seen that kind of mood and tone achieved on a TV budget before.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. So also, I think the tone of the show is something that we're quite excited by.
Yeah.
They've been saying all the right things in terms of, well, certainly Jeff Loeb has said, he told the cast and crew to look at the Ben Affleck movie and realise that that's exactly what we're not going to do, which is tough on the movie. I mean, it's not that bad, but it didn't work. And this one, they've talked about Taxi Driver, they've talked about Dog Day Afternoon. It's going to have that kind of 70s sort of New York City vibe that made those films so watchable.
Yeah, and they've also name-checked The Wire as well, which I think is a really good touchdown for them, because you're telling both that The Wire told both sides of the story very well, both from the villain and the hero, as it were, if you simplify it. And hopefully they can bring some of that to Daredevil. The only thing I worry about, or not worry about, but I can't really wrap my head around, is how much they're going to depict the superpowered nature of Daredevil. Are they going to go, you know, full out and visualize his sonar abilities and some of his more kind of superhuman aspects of the character, or are they going to try to mute them down to fit in with this tone, or just how can they get those two sides of it to mesh?
It'll be interesting to see. And I also like the writing pedigree, because it's Drew Goddard doing the first two episodes, who obviously was responsible for Cabin in the Woods and worked on Lost and is off on Sinister Six next. This guy knows what he's doing, so I'm really intrigued to see what he does with the character. Yeah,
and the final reason we're kind of like hyped about it is it's coming to Netflix, and in recent years Netflix has used a lot of the money they're making to invest in original programming, and they've attracted amazing talent and produced great shows. House of Cards, quite notably, Orange is the New Black, and so on. And it also changes the way that maybe we're going to watch this show as well, and what they can do,
and how we approach it, because man, it's tough for us to review 13 episodes the moment it goes live.
It's really tempting to just like blitz them and watch them all kind of in one sitting.
I can't do it. 13 hours.
You want to ration
long though. But yeah, like you say, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. can only do and say so much being on TV on a mainstream channel. Netflix can get away with a lot more, so hopefully we'll see something a bit darker and a bit nastier.
Yeah, but at the same time, it's not going to be hard art. Like the showrunner, Stephen DeKnight, who worked on Spartacus, which I've not seen, and I know that was quite a hard show to watch. It really pushed what you could do on TV, said that while it might be grittier than what we've seen so far in the Marvel universe, it's not going to be an X-rated movie. It's not going to be a hard R. It's going to still be true to the source material, because that wouldn't suit Daredevil. But you might see a bit more blood than you would, say, in Agent Carter.
But shows like Arrow and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., they've got to fill 22, 24 episode runs, and sometimes you do feel like there's filler in there, whereas the fact that this is just 13 episodes, they have talked about it being that they're envisioning it as one very long movie, you know, like a trilogy or something, which is, I think, a much better way to approach a story like this. So you know, we've talked before about the fact that we haven't quite had the great superhero TV show yet, like we have maybe in terms of a few of the movies.
Yeah,
so
there's be some really good ones.
Yeah. So hopefully, I mean, who knows, Daredevil might be the one. Fingers crossed. So if you want to let us know what your thoughts are, the email address is
superheroShow@ign.com.
Cool, and thanks for watching, and keep it locked to the Superhero Show for all your superhero needs.